right, you guys. Hello, true gardeners. So it's time. You are ready to get rid of what's in the front yard or jazz it up, make it more interesting, whatever the case may be, but you're looking to create a low maintenance front yard garden. Well, today's video is all about that. It is all about low maintenance, easy care, but interesting features, because low maintenance should not mean boring, should not mean no color, no impact. I think it should be the exact opposite. I think you should have interesting features, but just kind of bring some material in, combinations that are going to work really well together and live together long term, and things that you can maintain on a quarterly basis and be super, super happy with a small front garden. This front of the house is not very deep. This yard is your typical, I would say, suburban sized yard. So this is a fairly small front yard. This wall that we're working with, you can see all of the weight is to my left side over here of the house, and then this area of the front of the house is quite small. So we don't want to take and overcrowd this space with a bunch of height and a bunch of lushness and a bunch of tropical material. We really want to be careful of what you're going to use there, that it's going to look good now and it's going to look good years from now, because we didn't use material that is just going to, just not fit the space long term. And that's what low maintenance means. Why low maintenance, you might ask? It's different for every single person. As a landscape designer, I get to meet with so many different people. Some people are just not weekend warriors. They don't want to be out in the garden. They don't want to be trimming, shaping, cleaning, putting on their gardening gloves every time they turn around. So obviously low maintenance gardening is for you. And then for my customers, Mike and Mary here, they travel throughout parts of the year. So they want to be able to be in tune with their garden, have somebody come and maintain it over the time that they're gone, and then do some light work when they're here. So it's important just to kind of know what you're up for in the garden. So not only do you want it to fit your space, but you also want it to fit your lifestyle. Is this you? Then go this route. Those of you guys who need more than DIY action, you just need it to be done, finished, beautiful, and polished for you, give us a shout. We are a landscape design and installation company. So from concept of creating the design to the final touches of the mulch, the finished product. So if that's what you're looking for, please contact us. I'll put all of our contact information down in the show notes down below. For now, let's jump into some of the key things in this garden that really kind of help bring in that low maintenance but colorful, tropical fun to a front yard space. All right, you guys, so just like I normally do, I like to start from the back and work my way forward. So the corner pieces, the things that I chose to really kind of add some impact, we only had the room in this garden to add one big tree. We had plans in the original plan to add 2 trees in this front yard space, but easements and whatnot with the HOA, it didn't work out. So we only had room for 1. So if you got to do 1, why not do a big mamma jamma double like this, guys? So this is a double foxtail palm that anchors this corner of the house. You'll notice that I like to push my trees out as far to the edge of the property line as I can without getting into property easements, of course. So this guy is over to the side. I didn't want him in front of the window. I kind of wanted him kind of more in where this blank wall is, and pushed him out to the corner. That does a great job of framing the front entrance of the house. In a moment, you'll see on the opposite side how we have a big, giant, fat foxtail on that side to kind of give us that same framework that we have working on either side of this big driveway that we've got. So if you got to do 1 tree, do a double or a triple. That'll give you some substance, some impact, and really kind of, nail that in. That's an anchor tree. So you guys are probably wondering why I use foxtails so often. It's because I like self-cleaning trees. I like trees that you don't have to kind of go in there and trim or pay somebody a couple times a year to go in there and really give it a good haircut. So if it's at all possible and you're looking for a low maintenance tree, a self-shedding or self-cleaning tree is an ideal tree to work with. And I just kind of like how cool and slick this trunk line is. It just really kind of gives me that clean feel that I wanted in this front garden. This foxtail palm is 8-9 foot off of the house here, and it's pushed kind of out this way. So it's really kind of doing a good job of really giving us an entranceway feel. It's kind of just across from the entranceway of the walkway. So I really like the location that it's sitting. I think it's doing a nice job of becoming an anchor in this space. And because I don't want it to get lost, I don't want this to be all trunk when it's 27, 30 foot tall. I want it to have some kind of backing to it. So you guys know I love to put pygmy date palms as a backdrop. It's kind of a fluffy, kind of soft backing. And you only trim this guy 1 to 2 times a year. It really depends on your level of how upright you want to keep these fronds. If you like this bushy, kind of thick feel, you might only trim this once a year. It does have thorns, so that can make it a little bit angry if when you're trimming. So wear your gardening gloves and your long snippers and snip it as close to the trunk line as possible. But again, at a once a year trim offers such a big impact in a garden for such little care in the garden. So definitely worth a tree to incorporate as your either centerpieces or corner pieces or backdrops to big trees to give it depth, to give it that tiering effect. So now we're going to move over to the next tree in this grouping here. This is a European fan palm. This is such a little beauty, you guys. I know some people love them, some people hate them. I don't understand it because when I'm thinking about low maintenance, I'm thinking about trimming. I'm thinking about care. I'm thinking about overall pest issues and things like that. This guy gives you no problem. Stays put, grows 5 to 6 inches a year. That's how slow this tree grows. Has a beautiful rounded kind of feel. Now, when picking a European fan palm, you can find them very small. If they have this nice rounded feel where they kind of have trunks everywhere, that's the tree that you're going to want to find, whether it's a small little guy or a big tree. Because they're so easy to care for in nurseries, a lot of times they get forgotten about, which means that you get a tree that is not super healthy or does not full or doesn't have everything that you want it to have. And for a tree to have such a big presence in a garden, it has to be a real attractive European fan palm. You can see how big this window is and how little a space we have on either side of the window. So I didn't want anything, just clogging up this wall, making this wall even more and more narrow. So I wanted to open it, broaden it up. So in order to do that, you want a focal point here, and then if at all possible, grow into the next 2 focal points that jet out on either side of it. So it's like a kind of like an offset triangle here. This is our centerpiece. Now we're coming out to our next centerpieces, which are the false agaves. This guy right here on this corner really gives you a cool, fun pop of like a statuesque type of look. And then right at the entranceway does the same thing. And then we sandwich the European fan palm right in the middle. So just to reiterate, and when you're picking out your plants and your trees, your tall stuff, the things that are hard to get to, if you can make them self-shedding, self-cleaning, you're not up in a ladder having to do all that work. When it comes to your small stuff, it's okay to do the trimming as long as it doesn't grow super fast. If you're doing trimming on this tree, maybe once a year, and I mean maybe once a year, and it might be just a limb or two that maybe turned brown from a storm or whatnot. You would trim that once a year in here. These 2 guys, another low maintenance. They do grow about 1 foot a year, so you'll get some more size out of this all the way to here, but it is super easy to trim. I know it seems intimidating. Please do not be intimidated by these guys. I don't have any low ones that I can demonstrate for you, but what happens is the growth comes from the middle and pushes the other leaves out. So it'll cause this leaf in the future to kind of come down a little bit more than you may want. So all you do is you take and you put your foot down on that leaf. Take a bread knife, a serrated knife, a steak knife, or a garden knife. I have my Hori Hori garden knife that I love. It's super sharp, has those serrated edges, and all I do is slice it as close to the trunk. I just bend down here and whoosh, that's it. It's just as easy as that. And I might do that twice a year. The next thing you're gonna do are the fillers. So you've got the thrillers, you've got the tall accents, you've got the anchors, but you don't want big, bushy Sanchisia or copper leaves or anything that's gonna really outgrow that space, unless you're a weekend warrior. You guys are out there and you're doing it. But those of you guys who don't want that kind of work, then pick mixes of ground cover and low shrub material, compact shrub material. Along this back wall, we get great sun in this front yard. That is one of the things that we do have. So we could bring in some blooming power. So we've got a clustering of Helen Johnson dwarf bougainvillea. Now, those of you guys who are like, what? Bougainvillea? They're high maintenance. I know, I feel you. They are high maintenance. But dwarf bougainvillea can be and love to be kept compact and small. So every couple months you come in and you just nip these together. You want to let them control and be one solid grouping. They bloom so nicely and they can handle that direct sun. So they can handle any kind of heat off the pavers. They can handle tough places. And we kind of wanted a little bit of pop of color in this back side. So that's kind of where we started with the Helen Johnson bougainvillea. They'll get 3 by 3, so they'll be a nice kind of backdrop without getting too tall in front of this window. It's going to be an ideal backdrop for my client. She was a big fan of that coloration, so that's the direction we chose to go. Now we get to this plant here, this tree here. Now this tree, of course, as I mentioned earlier, only gets 5 to 6 inches a year. So what I couldn't put the Helen Johnsons all the way up to it because I didn't want them to encroach in this tree. Now you're trying to keep the Helen Johnsons and these separated to be happy neighbors. So I found a defining line. So these Indian hawthorns right here, they curve like this, kind of like a frame around the European fan palm. So they start here, curve back, and then kind of curve forward. These guys are going to be almost like a border, like do not touch, please. They're very controlled, very confined, get 2 foot tall, really stay nice and controlled. You can let them get 3 if you like. They're very, very easy to work with. They don't grow unless you say, would you grow please? I mean, that's really how they work. They're such a slow growing. They do bloom a white flower, but it's really the texture and the look of the leaf and the compactness of it that is its real beauty. So that's where this defining line is, to keep everything off of the European fan palm. This is where it gets tricky. So I need a little bit of height on the corner of the European fan palm because I don't want this all to be one level. We've got the 3 foot of the bougainvillea in the back, drops down to the 2 foot around guarding the European fan palm. But right here, I didn't want a whole row of something 4 foot or anything too big. So what I chose is a dwarf alamanda, and only 3 of them. These 3 plants right here will become one bush. That's their goal. They're gonna meld together and become a bouquet of just dwarf alamanda right here. And they're gonna be a perfect little spot of 2.5, 3 foot tall right here in this little mounding. Then it drops down over by the walkway with Blue My Minds wrapping the opposite direction. Then we start with the next tier, which is a backdrop of foxtail ferns as you're grouping. Now this gives a different kind of contrast. We go from leaf color to very vertical, kind of soft, flowy, look of the foxtail ferns, which you guys know I love. Then we draw back in with a sea little red rubies. This time of the year, they're more purple. During the summer months, they'll have more of a burgundy reddish tone. So both colors are gonna be gorgeous in this particular sea of color because we've got the yellow and the chartreuse coloring of this leaf. Foxtail fern, completely contrasting texture. And then we've got the shiny little leaves of the little rubies. And then to kind of like completely go crazy and contrast a whole nother look, we have a similar leaf structure as the little rubies, but a bright tone coloring of the golden dews or gold mounds right here. And of course, they just do enough, a little swath just to break up the color, and then finished it off with Florida boxwood right at the bottom. These are just almost like a very low controlled foot and a half ground cover that is really going to kind of keep us almost like a defined edge border. These get a little bit taller, these get a little bit taller, these get a little bit taller, and then it drops back down. So you can really see it from both sides, from the road and from people coming up the walkway. You can kind of see how easy that is. The borders are going to be very easy to keep clean. You can see I planted things in groups of each other. Hot pink pentas, right now we've got 5 here, but they're going to be 1. I just want this to be a clustering of these. No space in between. They're going to connect to each other, become one solid group of a little bit of height. Then it's going to drop over here to the golden dews and be one height along through here. This is formal. This is soft. This is soft to the back. This is formal. You kind of see the contrast. If you can't do that with multi-level of heights, you can definitely do it with textures of leaf and color changes. And that's kind of what I mean about a low maintenance garden. It doesn't have to all be one green hedge, one green hedge, one green hedge, or just a row of crotons to give you color. It can be this variation because these are all smaller, compact ground covers that love the same situation. They're more in the drought tolerant family. They're tough. They're just something that you can really work with all year long and not have to worry or fuss too much with them. Everything kind of has its own place. It has its own job in the garden, and this is not much room. This is a small pocket of a front yard, and I feel like we got as much impact as we possibly could. The only thing that if you're able to do, or you have a little bit more room, having a single foxtail in this particular spot right here would have been a beautiful feature to incorporate right here, because we have one on that side of the driveway there. It would have been lovely to have one on each side of the driveway. You guys know how I love framing. Any kind of project, there's always going to be some makeshift. There's always going to be some things that I'd love to do this, but it's not possible, whether it's budget or it's HOA requirements or it's county easement lines, whatever it is, you're going to just have to work with it and make the best of the situation. So that's why it's really good to have a good plan in place before you get started. I hope this video helps. I'm sorry it's such a short video today, but I definitely wanted to just showcase this front yard garden because I think that a lot of us are struggling struggling with some of the same problems. Those of you guys know that we have a book out we are very, very excited about. Please check it out. It is going to be the first link in the description down below. It is on Amazon. It is a book that Bryce and I created together. It took us over a year to create, so we are very pleased with it. It talks about the toughest of toughest tropical plants of Florida that I work with every single day as a landscape designer. Some of the plants that are just golden plants. They're the plants that I use to pull all of these designs that you guys see so much on YouTube together. And they're companion plants that grow super, super well with them. So it kind of gives a lot of information about them and some beautiful gardens that we created all along this Treasure and Space Coast. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's video, check out last week's video. I hope you enjoy all of the garden tours. Please list any comments or questions down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. Thank you so much. Take care, true gardeners.